Israel very much in the headlines. It's been an intense night there, with most of the votes counted now very much by far. Still no absolutely clear official winner for the Prime Minister's seat. Both main contenders, parties of the incumbent leader Benjamin Netanyahu and former General Benny Gantz, won an equal number of seats in Parliament. It didn't stop Netanyahu from declaring himself the victor, though.
This is a night of tremendous victory. I was very moved that the nation of Israel once again entrusted me for the 5th time. Already tonight I have started talks with the heads of the right-wing parties, our natural partners. I intend to be the Prime Minister of all Israeli citizens, right or left, Jews and non-Jews, alike, all Israeli citizens.
Well, in fact, at one point throughout the night, Benny Gantz declared himself the victor as well and said he'd be the Prime Minister. But it looks increasingly less and less the case. Our correspondent on the ground there, Paula Slee, is in Tel Aviv. Hi again, Paula. Yeah, I mean, nothing official yet. It's still going to be a couple of days before absolutely every vote is in. But it seems more and more likely that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to go into his 5th term as Israeli PM, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and that would make him the longest-serving Israeli Prime Minister in this country's history. It really would need something outrageous to happen for him not to be able to form this coalition. He's likely to get 65 seats out of a parliament comprising of 120, so that gives him a better majority than he had in the previous parliament, where he stood with 61. This will mean that his back will be less against the wall. He'll be able to perhaps move a little bit more freely and not be choked by those in his coalition who are putting demands on him that he perhaps doesn't want to adhere to. The election was largely seen as a kind of referendum on Netanyahu, and he certainly is perceiving the result, which is the strongest showing that his Likud party has ever achieved, as a nod that he's in the right direction, that Israelis appreciate his efforts, Israelis want him to continue in the premiership.
Yeah, reaction coming into this is, although it's not official, I see a Palestine Liberation Organization rep saying Israelis have chosen racism and permanent conflict by voting for candidates that are unequivocally committed to a status quo of oppression. It's not gone down well with the Arab population if he does get through, and indeed the Arab population turnout was pretty low, yeah.
It certainly was lower than it has traditionally been, at around 61%. This is primarily because of two reasons. The Arab community here in Israel, which numbers around 20% of the population, is internally divided. And also at the same time, there's a sense of despondency that is highlighted by the comment you make in terms of how Arab Israelis view the potential for elections to really change their fate. When I traveled the election polls yesterday, particularly in Arab neighborhoods, there you having people who are actually turning out, and they're saying that they feel that there needs to be some kind of change. But there was a call by many Arab leaders for Arab citizens to boycott the elections. There were also reports of irregularities of some 120,000 body cameras that were apparently organized by Netanyahu's Likud party for activists to wear in predominantly Arab areas. Now, this was interpreted by Arab citizens as a form of intimidation. At the same time, Likud denied the allegations and said that they had really used those cameras to try and make sure that the elections were free and fair and that there were no violent acts.
So as it stands at the moment, looks like Netanyahu is going to go through and form some form of coalition, as he's done in the past. But you mentioned last hour that there could be an obstacle to that because not everyone's on board with going into a coalition. Is he going to find that difficult?
He won't find the coalition building necessarily difficult, because he's already been putting a coalition together for the last few weeks, some of it behind the scenes, some of it in front of the scenes. He courted a lot of controversy for reaching out to a very far-right racist group. At the same time, however, it could take at least a month, if not longer, for him to solidify his coalition. We do expect that he'll be able to make this coalition. It is important, though, to mention that there was a very strong showing from his main rival, the former Israeli Defense Forces chief Benny Gantz, who for the first time has come forward with a political party, the Blue and White Party. Now, they are neck and neck with him in the polls, but they're unlikely to form as major a coalition as Netanyahu. But what this does mean for the Prime Minister is that he'll have a more united opposition. He won't perhaps be able to act so freely. He also needs to face the American President Donald Trump's deal of the century. There, Trump is likely to ask him for concessions. And of course, don't forget the corruption charges that Netanyahu faces. This is new territory for Israel. what will happen when, in fact, he is indicted. If he is indicted, when those charges come forward, that could take a long time, but at the same time, it will be a headache over the head of the Prime Minister.
Paula, just 5 seconds. When are we going to know the actual answer here? When are the final votes in? Just remind us.
Well, initially we were told it would be at midday today, which has come and passed. Now we're hearing that it could be sometime next week. So it's very fluid at this stage. We do expect, though, that the exit polls that we're looking at now really are not going to change, regardless of when those final results come in.
All right, Paula, let you get back to it. Thanks for the update there from Israel. I spoke earlier as well to Dan Dyker. He's from the Jerusalem Centre for Public Affairs. He told me even though Netanyahu has ongoing corruption cases against him, it won't stop him becoming Prime Minister.
This election has been a referendum on Mr. Netanyahu's personal profile. Mr. Netanyahu is has been indicted, conditioned upon a hearing where he can state his own defense, and therefore, that's very much what this election has been about. And analysts here are saying, and I join them, that is not enough to win an election. Having said that, it is going to take a substantial amount of Mr. Netanyahu's time. However, even if the hearing, his ability to defend himself in a hearing, even if he fails in that effort, legally he is entitled to continue as Prime Minister until a trial and some potential conviction, which would take a good couple of years. So it is fully within the confines and the sanction of Israeli law that a sitting Prime Minister can continue to lead the country even if he's been indicted.